Imagine building wealth, well, effortlessly, where your savings and investments just sort of grow steadily without you constantly micromanaging every single dollar.
Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Almost like a financial fantasy for many.
Exactly. Welcome, everyone, to Book Talk Finance. This is where we dive into impactful finance books, aiming to pull out the key knowledge you need to, navigate the world of money a bit more intelligently.
And today we're tackling a real giant in personal finance. It's The Automatic Millionaire, a powerful one-step plan to live and finish rich by David Bach.
Ah, David Bach. He's been sharing financial advice for ages, hasn't he? And this book, wow, it really hit a chord.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just a bestseller. It was like #1 everywhere. The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Business Week,
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah, clearly he tapped into something fundamental. So this powerful one-step plan, what's really at the heart of it? What's the big idea?
Well, the core principle, really the absolute foundation of the book, is automation. Bach argues that making your financial plan automatic is the single most crucial step you can take towards financial success.
Automation. Okay, so it's about setting things up to run on their own.
Yeah.
But why is that so powerful? It's more than just saving time, right?
Oh, much more. It's quite clever psychologically, actually.
Mm.
Automation kind of bypasses a lot of the common hurdles we face with money, the procrastination, the emotional spending.
Hmm.
It removes the need for constant decision making. Think about it deciding whether to save or spend this paycheck, this bonus. It can be tiring, right? And we often make impulsive choices.
Definitely, you just want to avoid thinking about it sometimes.
Exactly. So by setting up automatic transfers, automatic investments, you basically build a system that just works for you in the background. And that frees up what Bach calls worry-free time.
Worry-free time. I really like that phrase. Less mental energy spent juggling money stuff.
Precisely. More time and energy for, actually living your life.
And that subtitle, A Powerful One-Step Plan to Live and Finish Rich. That really hits home the idea of simplicity, doesn't it? It's not some complex, multi-layered strategy.
Not at all. The one step is essentially implementing that automation habit across your financial life. It's the starting point and the sustaining force.
Okay, so how does this look in practice? Does he give examples?
He does. A really central part of the book is the story of Jim and Sue McIntyre. They're presented as a pretty typical couple, not Wall Street wizards or anything.
Right, relatable people, and they achieved financial independence pretty early.
Yeah, surprisingly early. And their story really illustrates how these automated habits compound over time.
So what were their key moves? What did the McIntyres actually do?
Well, there were several things. First, they prioritized buying a home, and then they were really focused on paying off that mortgage faster than required.
Okay, homeownership and accelerated payments. Makes sense.
Then there's the Latte Factor.
Yeah.
They were very mindful of those small everyday expenses that can add up. We should definitely talk more about that one.
Oh, for sure. The Latte Factor is huge. What
It's a pretty strict rule. Cash or don't buy, except for the house, obviously.
Wow, discipline.
Very. And crucially, they never carried credit card debt. Paid the balance in full every single month, no excuses.
That alone is a game changer for many people.
Absolutely. But the real linchpin, the automatic part, was when they started automating their savings directly into their retirement account and also automating those extra mortgage payments.
Ah, so as soon as the technology allowed for automatic transfers, they jumped on it.
Exactly. It wasn't about suddenly earning a massive salary. It was about setting up the systems.
It really underscores their philosophy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You mentioned they said something like, set yourself up for success.
Yeah, that and also why make getting rich hard when you can make getting rich easy? It's all about removing the friction, removing the need for constant willpower. Let the system do the heavy lifting.
Okay, let's circle back to that Latte Factor you mentioned. Jim and Sue paid attention to it. Explain that concept a bit more. It sounds simple, but the impact seems significant.
It really is. The Latte Factor is Bach's term for highlighting how those seemingly tiny, insignificant daily purchases, the fancy coffee, the bottled water, the snack you grab, without thinking how they accumulate into, well, substantial amounts of money over time, often without us even realizing it.
Right. It's death by 1,000 cuts, financially speaking.
Sort of, yeah. He tells this story about a student in one of his seminars, Kim. She had this daily routine, double non-fat latte, a muffin, cost her over $10 before lunch.
$10 a day doesn't sound huge in isolation, but...
Exactly. But Bach runs the numbers. What if she redirected, say, just $5 of that each day into an investment?
Okay, $5 a day. What does that look like long term?
Well, $5 a day is about $150 a month. If you invest that consistently, and let's say you get an average annual return of, I don't know, 6% or maybe even 10% over many years,
The power of compounding kicks in.
massively. Bach shows that even at a fairly conservative 6% return, that $5 a day could grow to potentially over $500,000 by the time Kim might retire. It's kind of mind-blowing how we mentally discount these small, regular outflows.
It really is. It taps into that behavioral finance thing, doesn't it? We focus on the big purchases, but ignore the slow leaks.
Precisely. We're wired to notice the big hits, not the tiny drips. And Bach is clear, it's not just about lattes.
Right. It could be anything. Bottled water, cigarettes, subscriptions you don't use.
Absolutely. He gives the example of cigarettes, a daily pack could easily cost over $2,500 a year. That's $25,000 over a decade just gone up in smoke, literally.
Wow.
And then if you invested that same amount, well, you see the point.
Yeah.
He shows tables illustrating how investing maybe $10 or $20 a day with decent returns like 10% annually over, say, 40 years could potentially lead to hundreds of thousands, even close to $2 million.
It really drives home the leverage you get from consistency, even with small amounts.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful, which leads nicely into another core idea, moving beyond traditional budgeting.
Okay, interesting. Most finance advice starts with budgeting. Why does Bach suggest moving beyond it? What's wrong with budgeting?
Well, his argument isn't that budgeting is inherently bad, but that for many people, it's just not sustainable. It's not fun, is it? Tracking every penny, feeling restricted.
Yeah, it can feel like a chore, like a really strict diet, maybe.
Exactly like a strict diet. And what happens with strict diets? People often fall off the wagon, sometimes spectacularly. Budgeting can feel like deprivation, which can lead to rebound spending later.
Okay, so if not strict budgeting, what's the alternative he proposes?
It's the pay yourself first principle. This is absolutely central to his philosophy.
Pay yourself first. Sounds empowering. How does it actually work? How is it different?
Instead of tracking all your spending and hoping there's something left over at the end of the month to save.
Which there often isn't.
Right. Instead, you flip it. You decide up front how much you want to save and invest, and you treat that saving as the first and most important bill you pay each month. You automate it.
So saving becomes non-negotiable, taken right off the top.
Precisely. You're prioritizing your future self before you pay anyone else. It's a fundamental shift in mindset.
That is a big shift, because most people think, if I earn more, I'll save more. But it doesn't always work out that way.
No, Batch points that out clearly. Often, as income rises, spending just rises to meet it. Lifestyle inflation. So earning more doesn't automatically mean saving more unless you have a system.
Right.
He actually lists 6 ways people think they can get wealthy. Win the lottery, marry rich, inherit money, sue someone.
No, the less likely routes.
Exactly. Then there's budgeting, which we know is hard to stick to. And finally, pay yourself first. He argues the first 4 are unreliable, budgeting is difficult, leaving pay yourself first as the most practical and sustainable path.
And he makes an interesting comparison to how the government collects taxes, right?
Yeah, it's a great analogy. The government doesn't wait politely, hoping you'll have money left over to pay your taxes.
Definitely not.
It takes its share first, automatically, through withholding. Bach says we should essentially tax ourselves for our own future, automate our savings, just like the government automates tax collection.
Okay, so if you're going to pay yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
how much should you be aiming for? Is there a target percentage?
He provides a guideline. Generally aim to save somewhere between 10% and maybe 15% of your gross income, your
Yeah.
pre-tax income.
10 to 15%. Can you break that down? What does that look like practically?
Sure. Let's take someone earning, say, $50,000 a year. That's roughly $25 an hour, give or take. Saving 12.5%, right in the middle of that range, would mean saving about 1 hour's worth of your pay each day. So around $25 a day.
1 hour a day for your future. That puts it in perspective.
It does. And he also points out, importantly, that if you're doing this through pre-tax retirement accounts like a 401k or traditional IRA.
Yes. The tax benefit helps.
Exactly. The amount you save is deducted before taxes are calculated. So saving that $25 a day doesn't actually reduce your take-home pay by the full $25 because you're also lowering your taxable income. It makes it feel a bit easier.
That's a key point. So for people who are already contributing something to their company, 401k or similar plan, what's Bach's advice? Just keep doing that.
His advice is usually to contribute more if possible. The goal should be to max out the plan, meaning contribute the absolute maximum amount your employer's plan rules allow, or at least get as close as you comfortably can.
Really push those contributions.
Yes, because he keeps coming back to the power of compounding. He often uses tables showing, if you deposit just $100 a month, what happens over 20, 30, 40 years at different interest rates. The growth becomes dramatic over time. Time is your biggest asset.
Right. Consistency and time.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned different retirement accounts, 401k IRAs. Can we briefly clarify the main types?
Sure, so you've got the traditional IRA. With that one, your contributions might be tax deductible now, which lowers your current tax bill. But then your withdrawals in retirement are taxed as income.
Okay, tax break now, pay taxes later.
Essentially, yes. Then there's the Roth IRA. With a Roth, you don't get an upfront tax deduction on your contributions you put in money you've already paid taxes on.
But the upside comes later.
Big time. Qualified withdrawals in retirement, including all the earnings, are completely tax-free. That's why Roths have become super popular. Tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals are powerful.
Yeah, that sounds appealing. Any others worth mentioning?
He also mentions the IRA, which was a government-backed starter account, though its availability might have changed. And importantly, for self-employed people or small business owners, there are options like the SEP IRA or the solo 401k.
And those allow for bigger contributions.
Potentially much bigger, yeah. They can be really great tools for business owners to save aggressively for retirement.
Okay, so you're paying yourself first into these accounts. What about how to invest the money inside those accounts? Does Bach get into specific investment strategies? Does it have to be complicated?
No, thankfully. He really advocates for keeping it simple, especially when you're starting out. His advice is generally to avoid trying to pick individual winning stocks or bonds.
Too difficult, too risky for most people.
Yeah, it requires a lot of research time and, frankly, luck. Instead, he recommends focusing on broadly diversified mutual funds or exchange-traded funds, ETFs.
Why those?
Because they offer instant diversification. You own tiny pieces of many different companies or bonds, they're professionally managed, and you can often start investing with relatively small amounts of money.
Makes sense. Does he suggest specific types of funds?
He highlights things like asset allocation funds. These are funds that are already diversified across different asset classes, like stocks and bonds. Good examples are target date retirement funds.
Oh yeah, those automatically adjust the risk as you get closer to retirement.
Exactly. They do the rebalancing for you. Or balanced funds, which maintain a relatively steady mix of stocks and bonds. He mentions specific examples from companies like Vanguard, their life strategy funds, Target Retirement Funds, Star Fund, Balanced Fund, and also Fidelity's Freedom Funds and Balanced Fund.
So lots of options designed for simplicity and diversification.
Yes, and he also gives a nod to robo-advisors as another way to get automated, diversified investing help. The key message is diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
And that includes not putting too much in your own company's stock, right?
Crucially, yes. He warns against loading up too heavily on your employer's stock within your retirement plan. While it feels familiar, it's risky. Ideally, he suggests keeping it to maybe 5% to 25% of your portfolio max.
Good advice. Diversification is key. Okay, so we've covered automated saving and investing for the long term. What about emergencies? Stuff happens.
Absolutely critical. Bach emphasizes that you need an emergency fund, a readily accessible basket of cash for those unexpected life events, job loss, medical bills, car trouble.
Because living paycheck to paycheck is incredibly stressful and risky.
Terribly risky. One unexpected expense can derail everything, maybe even force you into high-interest debt. So, building that safety net is paramount. And guess what the key is?
Let me guess. Automation?
You got it. Automation is just as vital for building your emergency fund. He recommends setting up automatic transfers from your checking account to a separate savings vehicle.
How much should you aim for in that emergency fund?
The general guideline is enough to cover 3 to 12 months of your essential living expenses. The exact amount depends on your job security, income stability, dependents, etc.
3 to 12 months. That sounds like a lot, but it provides real security. Where should you keep this money? Just a regular savings account?
You could, but Bach suggests looking at money market accounts, either at a bank or potentially at a brokerage firm. Why? Because they often pay slightly higher interest rates than standard savings accounts while still being safe and accessible.
So your emergency money can earn a little something while it waits.
Exactly. It pays to shop around for the best rates and look for accounts with low or no fees and maybe low minimum deposit requirements. He mentions Fidelity as one example that historically offered low minimums.
And automating the contribution is key to actually building it up.
Absolutely. You can set up a direct deposit from your paycheck or just a recurring automatic transfer from your checking account into that money market account. Set it and forget it and watch it grow.
Okay, emergency fund covered. The book also talks about home ownership, doesn't it? What's the general take there? Is it always a good idea?
Bach generally presents homeownership in a positive light, especially from a wealth-building perspective. He cites data like a 2014 Federal Reserve survey showing homeowners typically have a significantly higher net worth than
That's a
renters.
pretty stark difference.
It often is over the long term, but he also acknowledges the non-financial aspects, the pride of ownership, the sense of security and stability it can provide.
And the idea that rent money could potentially be building equity instead.
Right. His point is that often the amount someone pays in rent could actually support a mortgage payment. Owning allows you to build equity over time, which is a form of forced savings. He also briefly touches on strategies like making biweekly mortgage payments.
Right, paying a little extra to pay it off faster and save on interest.
Exactly. Making the equivalent of one extra monthly payment per year can shave years off the loan and save a lot in interest. Automation can help here too, setting up those slightly higher or more frequent payments.
Makes sense. Now let's talk about the flip side of building wealth debt, specifically credit card debt. That can be a major roadblock.
Oh, huge. Bach is very clear about the dangers of high-interest credit card debt. He emphasizes how quickly the interest compounds against you and how long it can take to pay off even a relatively small balance if you're only making minimum payments.
He uses an example, right? It's something about an $8,400 balance.
Yeah, a pretty typical balance for some families, sadly. And he shows how making only minimum payments could mean it takes literally years, maybe decades, to pay off, and you end up paying thousands upon thousands in interest alone. It's a trap.
The very expensive trap. So what's the way out? Does he offer quick fixes?
No, he warns against those quick-fix debt solutions that often sound too good to be true. Instead, he recommends seeking legitimate help if you're overwhelmed, pointing towards reputable nonprofit organizations like the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, the NFCC.
Okay, responsible advice. And he has his own step-by-step plan for tackling debt, doesn't he? Operation No More Debt.
That's right. It's a clear, actionable plan. Step 1 is crucial. Stop digging. Put the credit cards away. Stop adding to the debt.
Makes sense. You can't get out of a hole if you keep digging.
Exactly. Step 2 is know your numbers. You need to face reality, list all your debts, the balances, and, importantly, the interest rates for each one.
Okay, get organized. Then what?
Step 3 combines two principles we've discussed. Pay yourself first and pay down debt. Even while you're tackling debt, you should still be saving something, even if it's small. But you also need to dedicate a specific, consistent amount towards paying down that debt aggressively.
So don't stop saving entirely, but make debt reduction a priority too.
Right. Step 4 introduces something he calls DOLP, the Debt Out of Life Plan. This is about prioritizing which debt to attack first. He suggests focusing on the debt with the lowest DOLP number.
DOLP number. How do you calculate that?
You divide the total balance of a specific debt by its minimum monthly payment. The debt with the lowest resulting number is technically the one you can get out of your life the fastest, providing a quick psychological win and freeing up cash flow sooner to apply to the next debt. It's a variation of the debt snowball method.
Ah, okay. Focus on the quickest win first for motivation.
Yeah, that's the idea behind it. And finally, step 5, no surprise, automate payments. Set up automatic payments for at least the minimums on all debts and automate the extra payments towards the one you're targeting with the DOLP method.
Automation, again, ensuring consistency even in debt repayment. Seems very practical.
It is. It provides a clear roadmap. Now, there's one more element in the book that might surprise some people in a finance context. The idea of tithing or giving back.
Giving back. How does that fit into becoming an automatic millionaire?
Well, Bach presents tithing traditionally giving 10%, but really any proactive giving, not just as a religious practice, but as something that can bring immense personal satisfaction and joy. It's about incorporating generosity into your financial plan from the start.
So it's not just about accumulating wealth, but also about sharing it.
Yes, and doing so proactively. He points out how generous Americans generally are, donating billions annually. He suggests finding causes you care about and automating your giving, even if it's a small percentage of your income to start.
It's about the habit and the intention, not necessarily a strict 10%.
Exactly. He stresses it's about the love of giving. And he provides resources to help find reputable charities like justgive.org, give.org from the Better Business Bureau, and Charity Navigator.
Are there ways to automate giving too?
Absolutely. You can set up recurring donations. He also briefly mentions donor-advised funds, which are like investment accounts for charity. You can contribute assets, potentially get a tax deduction now, let the money grow tax-free, and then decide which charities to grant the money to over time.
Interesting. So even giving can be automated and strategic.
hmm He shares the story of Sir John Templeton, the legendary investor, who apparently practiced tithing his whole life, even when he had very little income early on. It was just part of his financial DNA.
Wow. So tying it all together, the core message of The Automatic Millionaire really boils down to setting up systems, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about harnessing the power of automation for everything. Paying yourself first for savings and investments, building your emergency fund, managing and paying down debt, and even incorporating generosity.
You make these smart choices up front, set up the automatic processes.
And then you let consistency and the magic of compounding do the heavy lifting over time. It's designed to remove the stress, the constant decision-making, and allow you to build wealth almost in the background.
Leading to financial security and hopefully more enjoyment of life along the way, that live rich idea.
Precisely. It's a powerful framework because it focuses on sustainable habits rather than sheer willpower or complex strategies.
A truly compelling and, well, surprisingly simple approach when you break it down. If this conversation about automating your finances has got you thinking, and you want to explore more great finance books with us,
Yeah, definitely consider subscribing to our channel. We'll be having more discussions and talks like this one.
thanks for joining us on Book Talk Finance.